Oh, welcome to Just the Dis. We talk about Blu-rays here. My name is Brian, and I have the good old reliable new discs box, and I got a stack of new discs to discuss with all of you. Here is what we're talking about today. Oops. There you go. So that's what we're going to talk about. And we shall start with one of the great 90s gems, Pump Up the Volume. This movie has been with me for a long time. I can't remember if I saw it in the theater when it came out. It's very possible, although I might not have seen it until VHS. But this one's obviously a long time coming to Blu-ray. Has been only DVD, and still, as far as I know, isn't really streaming. I'm hoping that because this Blu-ray is available and they did a new master, which looks very nice, by the way, that we may get a chance to have this available streaming so that more people can see it. Of course, I don't care either way now. I have this Blu-ray, and I'm very excited to have it. Unfortunately, it has no features to speak of. That's what it looks like inside. And yeah, no features, but I've been asked to read the audio info on the back here. Let's see here. DTS HD Master Audio English 5.1 Surround. So it has that, and it has the trailer. But yeah, this movie was a big deal to me in high school, and then in college. I remember seeing it again and thinking it was kind of laughable how seriously all these kids were taking all the drama in high school, because I was fresh out of it and I was like, high school. But I have since come back to it several times post-college, and it has regained its old effect on me. Like I really enjoy the hard, hairy character and the overall character that Christian Slater plays. Obviously, the film is about a radio homemade talk show DJ guy who will find, with his radio setup, a frequency that he can use to talk to whoever's listening, and it happens to catch on at his high school. And he uses a voice disguiser, and he talks about masturbation and is very sort of dirty and crude in some of his observations, but also seemingly wise beyond his years in others. And the kids really respond to that, and it becomes kind of a phenomenon, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, great soundtrack, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the soundtrack is intact. I watched it today, and I didn't notice anything taken out that wasn't, basically it lined up with the old DVD that I had, and that's the only way I've watched it for years. So if that DVD was missing any soundtrack songs, I'm not sure, but as far as I know, it's intact, and the transfer looks really good. Like, it was really nice to see it above SD level quality after so many years of just watching that DVD. But yeah, still really held up for me. Was, partially an inspiration for Just the Discs in terms of the podcast side of things. Like, I did think about Christian Slater alone in a room with a microphone, and me alone in a room with a stack of Blu-rays, and just thinking, like, who will hear this? And, maybe nobody. So that definitely was going through my head when I started the podcast 4 years ago. So anyway, and podcasts in general, I feel like for me, some of it starts here. He has that great line about a voice going somewhere to hang out, and that's kind of what podcasting is to me. But anyway, very excited that Warner Archive put this out. Very happy to have it. And, in that soundtrack, you get the great version of Wave of Mutilation, the slow version, the UK surf version, as it were, by the Pixies, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. And clearly, well, not clearly, but I would imagine Richard Kelly saw Pump of the Volume because he uses that same song to great effect in Southland Tales. And of course, this is the new Arrow version of it. This is a 2-disc set. So you have your theatrical cut, and then you have your con cut of the film. And yeah, I like this movie. You know, this is one of those that it's definitely strange and, you know, epic in terms of the scale of the story and the number of characters. And it has like 3 novelization prequels that like lead up to the story that's taking place here. And it's a crazy story with some off-the-wall scientific sci-fi elements, dimensional portals, you know, like Donnie Darko in a way, but different, you know. But the cast is insane. I mean, you've got Dwayne Johnson, you've got Sean William Scott, you've got Sarah Michelle Gellar, Justin Timberlake. I mean, there's just this whole gaggle of folks from SNL, Sherry O'Terry, John Lovitz, John Larroquette. I mean, he's more Night Court, but just a lot of really interesting, you know, Christopher Lambert. I mean, it's just packed with people who wanted to be a part of this movie, obviously, because of how much they enjoyed Donnie Darko, I would imagine. But yeah, it becomes a little bit complicated when you're watching it, but it was fun to watch that con version of the film. It's 158 minutes versus the old cut, which is just a shade over 2 hours. 145 versus 158. So I guess it's only 13 minutes longer. But the one thing that the con cut doesn't have is there's this whole sort of summation of the, you know, the things that are happening before the film in this, like, I don't know, it's like a computer simulation thing that happens at the beginning of the theatrical cut. But I know that he didn't get to do that until later, and so that's not in the con cut, but at least I don't think it was. And that was helpful. In rewatching the theatrical cut, I was seeing that and going, oh yeah, okay, now I remember why some of this was a little less confusing the last time I watched it, because they do fill in some gaps right at the beginning. But definitely a cult item, definitely a cool movie that I'm so glad got a really nice treatment. I would have loved a 4K of it, but we just got a 4K announcement for Donnie Darko, so I'll take that, you know, that'll be fine. But this looks good in both versions, and it has some nice features. It says new 2K restoration by Arrow Films, approved by Richard Kelly, director, and director of photography Stephen Poster. 1080p presentations of both versions of the film. Let's see here. The Con Cut, which premiered at Cannes Film Festival in 2006. Original lossless DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 and PCM 2.0 stereo soundtracks. And then it has the audio commentary on the theatrical cut from Richard Kelly, which is interesting because that was recorded in 2008. So you're listening to him talking, and he says at the beginning it's on the eve of the election with John McCain and Obama. So we're just about to see if Obama got elected at that point. And he definitely talks about some interesting stuff about how he wrote the script, and then 9/11 happened, and that was a huge deal, obviously, and it felt like something that would find its way into this. And so he sort of added some elements to it, and it became, I think it was already kind of about some of those things, but it became more so, I think, according to what he was saying. But anyway, it was interesting to hear him talking at that point, you know, 13 years ago, not quite, about that election, you know, knowing what we know happened and knowing where we are now. It's just very intriguing to hear somebody speaking in the past from that point of view. But there is also a new documentary. I want to say it's about an hour between 3 sections, and it's Ballyhoo Motion Pictures did the doc. It is called "It's a Madcap World: The Making of an Unfinished Film," a new in-depth retrospective documentary on the film featuring contributions by Richard Kelly and members of the original crew. And there's something called U.S. Ident TV, Surveilling the Southland, an archival feature out on the making of the film. And then This Is the Way the World Ends, an archival animated short set in the Southland Tales universe, and a nice booklet as we get with the Arrow Films releases. So this is definitely cool and one I was looking forward to getting, and it was fun to watch it actually close to Pump Up the Volume for whatever reason. Even though I don't tie the films together, the use of that song was a connector for me. So there's that. Then we have a great little documentary from 2002. Wow, 2002. That's crazy. Didn't seem like it was that long ago. But The Kid Stays in the Picture, which is a quote-unquote documentary about Robert Evans, the great film producer, studio head of Paramount from 1967 to the early 80s, I think. And it's obviously based on his book on tape, which is him reading this sort of memoir, which is why I say documentary in quotes. And even there's a great commentary with the directors, Brett Morgan and Nanette Burstein. And even they say that they, try to make people aware at the beginning, like this is a documentary, but it's very much from one man's point of view. And he's speaking and doing the voiceover for the whole thing, and he's in it, and they use archival interviews with him and everything. So, but it's very much his point of view, and that is both interesting and entertaining. But it's obviously another side of the whole Easy Riders, Raging Bulls era of, Hollywood in the late 60s into the 70s, when there was this transition happening, and a lot of people that previous to that time would have never been anywhere near a studio were suddenly given a chance to make their movies. And Robert Evans just happened to be kind of a golden boy in that respect. Like, he was discovered as an actor at the Beverly Hills Hotel at a pool by Norma Shearer, I think. And he sort of started in earnest as an actor, but then wanted to really produce. And it's a great story of how he finds his way into the studio. It was Paramount was like in 9th place out of 9 studios at the time. They had just been bought by Gulf and Western, I think. And this guy, Charlie Bluedorn, was one of the heads of the Gulf Western money, and sort of in control of who he picked to be the head of the studio. And he picked Robert Evans, who is one of the great, seducers of all time. That's one thing they say in the commentary, and it comes out in the film, just in terms of not just women, but people in general. Like, he is a guy who is charismatic and can tell you a story and get you on board with where he wants you to be. He's a character, But what's really neat is it does talk about the rise of Paramount, starting in the late 60s, when he would have hits like Rosemary's Baby. And then actually the smaller ones you don't hear about, like The Odd Couple, and Harold and Maude was a big hit. And then obviously The Godfather, that was a huge one. But the other one that I didn't really totally get, I mean, I knew it was a hit, but I didn't realize how big a hit, was Love Story. And that was the one that kind of cemented him in place. Like, he tells a story that basically the studio, the money people, were ready to throw him out, and he showed them some of Love Story, and he said, he showed them some little video or film he'd made that was talking about how they spent money at Paramount. And anyway, he convinced them, and Love Story came out and was an incredible juggernaut, like made more money than any film that year, and was like, I want to say it was like the 6th highest grossing film period at that time or something. Made over $100 million or something like that. I don't know. But so that's the one that really catapulted, and then The Godfather just, blew the doors off of everything. But without Love Story, without his then girlfriend, soon to be wife, Ally McGraw, and Ryan O'Neal starring in this tearjerker that came just at the right time. And there's a lot of other interesting stories. I actually will talk about Love Story in a second, because it just came out on Blu-ray, actually. I'll tell those stories later. Anyway, this documentary is really interesting, and it's only about 93 minutes, but you have The commentary with the directors, you have something called The Truth About Bob, The Film That Saved Hollywood, The Kid Speaks, On the Red Carpet, Up Close with the Kid, The Spirit of Life Award. So some older footage of him talking, and then something called The Truth According to Others, Showgirls on Evans, The Evans Gag Reel, and On the Red Carpet. So you have other perspectives on him in those features. This is, boy, I don't see if it says the audio options on here. I'm not seeing that now. DTS. So that's a Region A lock disc. That's Kid Stays in the Picture. Tying into that, one of the movies that Robert Evans is in as Irving Thalberg at the beginning and throughout the story is Man of a Thousand Faces. This is a Blu-ray from Arrow Academy. And, of course, James Cagney plays Lon Chaney in this film. And it's a really neat, if sad, movie. And again, I said it opens with this memorial for Lon Chaney, and Robert Evans comes out as Irving Thalberg and gives a speech on stage, and then we flash back to his early years and how he sort of broke in as a performer. Well, we don't really see how he broke in as a performer. We see how he breaks into Hollywood with the skills he'd already developed as a performer, one of which is obviously being able to do incredible makeup for himself. And you can see examples of the makeups he did for himself in many iconic performances. But what's interesting about the movie is that it's more of a marriage drama, kind of about his marriage to his wife Cleva, played by Dorothy Malone, and how they had kind of a tumultuous thing. He's shown early on defending her when she's not particularly reliable, and she's doing her own act, and he is always reliable and does great work on stage. And so they have a sort of a tension about that. And then there's more tension when he reveals that his parents are deaf, mutes. She can't handle that. They become a bit estranged, and it affects their relationship with their child, who of course would go on to be Lon Chaney Jr. And so it's kind of two things. It's this story of this fallen couple, and then the story of this guy and his success and his relationship with his son. So it's got the inside Hollywood stuff, and it has other stuff going on that may or may not interest some people. I think it's interesting as a watch, as a whole thing. I'm more intrigued by the Hollywood stuff than I am the marriage stuff, because it's just really sad. But great performance by James Cagney. And this has a brand new restoration from the original camera negative by Arrow. It has uncompressed mono 1.0 PCM audio, optional soundtrack, subtitles, new audio commentary by films historian Tim Lucas. And you guys know how I feel about Tim Lucas. He is among the Cadillacs of film commentary folks, and his commentary here is no exception. It's great. And then you also have another guy that I love, Kim Newman, with something called The Man Behind a Thousand Faces, a newly filmed look at Lon Chaney and his legacy by Kim Newman. So that's great. So Tim Lucas and Kim Newman together is like peanut butter cups, man. It's just wonderfully delicious. So great release from them, and I thought it would kind of go with Kid Stays in the Picture. Then, as I said, we have the new Paramount Presents Blu-ray of Love Story, which of course has the old fold-out slipcase. We'll take that off. So that looks like, and this is actually a relatively loaded Paramount Presents disc. Not to get down on them too much, but a lot of the Paramount Presents, you're porting over whatever features existed before, which happens with this, and then you get a new filmmaker focus, which is usually good, but it's only about 6 to 8 minutes long. This one is great because, of course, it's Leonard Maltin on Love Story, and he has a lot of interesting facts and tidbits about the film. This, of course, like I said, was a big hit in 1970. It is newly restored from a 4K transfer for its 50th anniversary. And it says one of the most romantic movies of all time, is still as impactful as ever. Nominated for 7 Academy Awards. And based on Eric Siegel's best-selling novel that defined a generation. And they do mention how Eric Siegel, the writer, wrote it as a screenplay first, pitched it to Paramount, they bought it, but then they decided, we want you to make this into a novel first, and we'll release that, and then we'll release the movie, which obviously is a thing that, we've seen maybe since then or maybe before, I don't know, when tie-in novels started, but in this case, the novel that came out prior to the movie was a huge runaway hit and only fed the success of Love Story, which is a tragic story, which is sort of revealed in the opening what's going to happen. I guess I won't say in case you don't know. But basically they're star-crossed lovers. He goes to Harvard, she goes to Radcliffe. He's from a rich family. She is from a poor working class family. And they connect. And yeah, I'm not going to say where it goes, even though you can easily find out. But, definitely of its time and some great performances. And you can kind of see why people connected to it. And Arthur Hiller is the director, and he did a good job with this one. This is, let's see, what else do we have? TCM intro from Ben Mankiewicz. That's about 3.5 minutes. There's commentary by director Arthur Hiller for the whole film, which is good. And then something called Love Story, a Classic Remembered. And I think that's from the DVD because it says copyright 2000. It's about 15 minutes, and it's just, an interview with Hiller and scenes from the film and him talking about his memories of various parts of the production. And it's good. It's a good interview. He talks about certain things that he wanted to get right and that clearly did make a difference in terms of the movie connecting with people, and getting the film itself to the place he wanted to release it. So a good package overall if you're into older 70s films, and the transfer looks nice. So that is Love Story. Okay. And then we've got another one from Paramount Presents, and that is Cameron Crowe's film Elizabethtown from, when is this from? 2005? 2005, yeah. And I swear, I don't know which cut it is, but it has deleted and extended scenes. I know there was maybe a producer's cut or some other cut of the film. I'm not sure. I saw somebody asking about that when this was announced. So I don't know what's missing or not, but it felt as complete as I remembered it. It's been a long time since I'd seen it. It is a film that was not necessarily incredibly well received when it came out, but has definitely developed a cult following since, because a lot of people seem very excited about this Blu-ray. And I will say, after watching it, I get it. I get it. I don't love this film. I find Orlando Bloom isn't maybe my guy as a leading man. He just doesn't, there's something not there that I'm not able to fully connect with him. But I do love Kirsten Dunst, and she is great in this film. And supposedly this is the film that made Nathan Rabin of The Onion coin the phrase manic pixie dream girl, where you do have this character that almost doesn't seem real in terms of how incredibly supportive and just into this sad sack she is, but she really does have a great energy and a great vibrance. And, really the scenes with her and him together are the ones that keep me in this movie. Ultimately, it's a story about loss and failure. It's about a guy who's been working at a shoe company as a designer for at least 8 years, and his new shoe apparently has some flaw in it, which the other thing I don't particularly like is maybe I missed it, but they haven't fully explained what the flaw was. So they have to recall all the shoes, and basically the company is going to take a huge hit because of it. And, they lose $974 million or something, nearly $1 billion. So he is in not good shape at the beginning of the movie. The first shot of the movie, which I think is interesting, is a semi-truck backing up to the loading dock at the company itself, returning a bunch of shoes. And then you have a scene where he goes and meets the head of the company, or one of the heads, played by Alec Baldwin, and he just like, in that Alec Baldwin, Glengarry Glen Ross kind of way, not quite as brutal, but in a lot of ways the same kind of brutality, just sort of lays into the Orlando Bloom character. And it's basically like, you're going to go and do this article and basically take the fall for all of us. This is your fault. It's just like, oh. So at the same time all this is happening, his girlfriend breaks up with him, and he gets a call that his father has died. And his father is, I don't fully understand like if it's estranged or what, but he lives near Elizabethtown. And so he has to go back home-ish, where he used to live, I guess. He's since moved to Oregon with his family, and his mother's played by... oh, shoot. Of course I'm going to forget that. Oh, damn it. No, not going to come back right now. I should show you the inside there. It's our cover. Okay. But anyway, so he goes back east to see his cousins and his uncle and some other folks on that side of the family. And it is a weird situation for him because he doesn't know a lot of people. He doesn't remember them that well. And they have a specific point of view on the burial of his dad. They want him to be buried, and his mom wants him to be cremated. And it's just one of those things where there's some tension there, and he's already just out of his mind down about the job thing, and this dad thing has just been, it's rough. But there's some interesting interviews with Cameron Crowe on here, and there's the new one and the old one. He kind of echoes a similar sentiment, which is one that the movie sort of came to him when he was riding a bus, I think a tour bus with his wife, who was touring with her band, and they were coming through Elizabethtown in the south and some towns, and he started to get this something in his head, started to think about his family, like apparently he has some family back from that area or something, and he told her he had to get off the bus and he would meet her at the next tour stop. Basically, he had this idea and he sort of had to drive around and sit with it for a while, and that's sort of what became Elizabethtown. And he also says that this movie is about grief and loss, and that he made it in a way for those that are going through that, the loss of a parent or someone. And I can see how this would be something that people who've lost someone would relate to, in terms of just the different scenes with the family and the awkwardness. And it's just, I don't know. So it's this interesting movie, and one that, again, I enjoyed on this rewatch, especially the quasi-romantic scenes between Kirsten Dunst and Orlando Bloom. That really held up for me. But it also has a that filmmaker focus, which is new. Then it has deleted and extended scenes, and introduction to them by Cameron Crowe. And then it goes through like all the deleted scenes that they play in the movie. Then they have the On the Road to Elizabethtown featurette, the Music of Elizabethtown, Meet the Crew featurette, Training Wheels featurette, and some trailers and TV spots as well. Dolby Audio, I think it says here, TTS. That's all I can see in terms of that. But nice that this finally got a Blu-ray. I know it's going to be very exciting for those hardcore fans of this one. And then last but not least, we recently lost a great director in Joan Micklin Silver. She's one of my favorites. I mentioned her briefly in the Twilight Time video that I did, where I mentioned Chilly Scenes of Winter, which is my favorite film of hers. But this one is also great. It's called Between the Lines, and it came out before Chilly Scenes. And I'll just read the back to give you the sense of it. It says, at the offices of a Boston alternative newspaper, the staff members enjoy a positive and open-minded work environment. Music critic Max, played by Jeff Goldblum, uses his influence to score dates, while news reporter Harry, John Hurd, is dating the lovely Abby, Lindsay Krause. The publication's lead photographer, however, it seems as though... that's who Lindsay Krause is. I forgot she's the lead photographer. However, it seems as though their relatively carefree days are numbered when the owner of a major publishing company buys the paper, leading to more money, but even more changes. The sophomore film by trailblazing writer-director Joan Micklin-Silver marked her second independent production and theatrical follow-up to the acclaimed Hester Street. And this is presented in a new 2K restoration. And this is also on the Criterion channel if you want to watch it there. But I do recommend this Blu-ray as it has a new interview with Joan Micklin-Silver that is very good. And I am a huge fan of hers. But yeah, it's like, you've got this group, including, Michael J. Pollard, Gwen Wells, Bruno Kirby over there, and, Jeff Goldblum again. So it feels like that sort of Altman group, and it isn't quite the same energy as an Altman movie. Like, Joan Micklin-Silver does her own thing, but it's just, I don't know. I just love this movie. Goldblum is a big part of it. John Hurt, I'm a big fan of, but just the chemistry between these actors and these characters, and this idea of like what was a sort of radical 60s newspaper and how it's aged into the 70s, and sort of bureaucratically what they're going through and how that's affected the writers for the paper. And it's just an incredible ensemble, and I'm a huge fan of it. And I really feel like it's underseen and was not really that available. There was a made-on-demand DVD, came out 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I don't know how long ago. But outside of that, it really wasn't available streaming that I remember too much. And so that when this Blu-ray came out, that was the first step. And now you can watch it on Criterion channel, like I said. But pick up the Blu-ray if you can. It's just a great 70s film, and a great way to sort of celebrate Joan Micklin-Silver, who I said is one of my favorite directors. She's just fantastic. And Hester Street is great as well. That also has a Blu-ray from, I think that's Scorpion actually put that out. I have that too. But Between the Lines is really solid and well worth your time. Check it out. So that is it for this round of new discs. Thank you, as always, for watching these. I greatly appreciate it. If you could also leave a like and or a comment about maybe something new you picked up, if you like, I'd love to hear that. And subscribe to the channel if it's something you're enjoying what I'm doing. Put the little bell thingy so that you can find out every time I post a new video. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.